Hello everyone, this is Shadow the Rat, and in this video I wanted to talk about using exercise balls with your rats. So as many of you might know, exercise balls are considered kind of a staple in the rodent world. However, I wouldn't use it for any sort of rodent, from a hamster to a rat to a gerbil to a degu. I just don't think it's a very good way to give them exercise, and I'm going to go over why in this video. So the main things I'm going to go over here is the poor ventilation provided by the holes in the ball, and the fact that these also promote foot injuries just because of their size. I'm also going to go over how it takes away the rat's agility, and how it also takes away some of their senses like smell and touch. And then finally, I'm also going to talk about how it forces the rats to touch their excrement, which is their pee and poop, and how it can also stress them out, especially if they're not used to it. So the first thing I'm going to go over here is poor ventilation, and the fact is that while these balls do have little ventilation slits in them, they're just not enough. You don't get very much airflow through these small little slits, and besides that, there's a reason we don't like to house our rats in tanks or bin cages. This is exactly the same reason you don't want to be exercising them inside a small plastic ball, and this is basically because ammonia can build up in all of these things very easily, and when your rat is running around in a tiny plastic ball, they're going to be peeing, they're going to be marking, and because of this, you're going to have lots of ammonia building up inside the ball, and obviously this is not very good for their already poor respiratory systems. So another thing you need to worry about with these exercise balls is the fact that these small little slits also promote foot injuries, and this is because while they don't really promote good ventilation, they are the perfect size to trap rat toes, and they can sprain or even break their toes, so obviously you don't want this happening to your rat. Then there's also the fact that being encased in a plastic ball takes away all of your rat's agility. Rats are well known for liking to jump, they like to dig, they like to burrow, they very much enjoy doing all sorts of different activities, and the ball basically reduces any activity down to running forwards or running backwards. So you can probably see how this would be boring to any animal, especially one who is as agile as a rat is. Then there's the fact that these balls actually take away part of your rat's senses. So as you probably know, rats don't have the best eyesight. This is pretty much a given because they just aren't very sight-oriented creatures. So unlike us humans, they're not going to enjoy something that forces them to rely on their eyesight. Rats mainly rely on their sense of smell and their sense of touch, so that would be like their whiskers and their nose. And when you're in a plastic bubble, well, that blocks out scents, and that also blocks out any way to use their whiskers to get around. Think of if you or I were trapped in a room with invisible walls. We would not be able to get around very easily. It would not make you feel very confident because we tend to rely on our vision to get around. And if you can't use your vision to get around, if your vision is tricking you because there's an invisible wall there that you can't see, you're not going to feel very safe or happy in that room. It's the same with rats in an exercise ball. They can't use those senses that they're so used to using, and because of this, most rats are not going to enjoy running around in an exercise ball nearly as much as they would enjoy just running around in a free range area. Another thing is that it forces your rat to come into contact with their excrement, which is their urine and their feces. When they're stuck in a ball, the poop has nowhere to go, same with the urine. It might seep out of the little holes, however, in the case of poop, it's just too big to get through those little holes. So you're going to have it tumbling around with the rats as they're running around. They're probably going to squish it under their feet, maybe get it in their fur. It's just going to be so disgusting. And as you probably know, rats really value being clean, so they're not going to enjoy getting all that gunk on them. So my final point is that by being in such a small, confined space like an exercise ball, you're going to be stressing your rat out. Rats don't tend to like to be confined in small spaces, and a ball is absolutely the worst because it's just a bit bigger than them, and not to mention that it's also clear, so they might not even be able to see it. So altogether, it's just a very stressful experience for them. Of course, if you put your rat inside an exercise ball every day and you have them run around in that fashion, they're going to get used to it. Any animal who has been domesticated needs to be able to adapt to our lifestyle, and because of this, most of them can change very easily. In the case of rats, they live in cages. That is not something they do in the wild, and if you put a wild rat in a cage, it will not enjoy being inside that cage. Whereas our domestic rats actually enjoy being inside their cage, and they see it as a home instead of a prison like a wild rat might. But still, do you really want to put your rat in a situation where they're going to be so stressed out at first, and where they really don't have very many options to play like an exercise ball? There are many different options out there, like I said. The one people always think of is a rat-proof room. However, not everyone can do this, and that's perfectly fine. You can always set up a shelf for your rats to play on, or give them a playpen like I did, or maybe you can give them a couch to play on, just set out some items. You can also try giving them a tent or even a table, and there are many different options out there, so don't feel confined by whatever you've seen. Now, the one good thing I find that exercise balls are great for when it comes to rats is making a perfect hammock or sleeping spot. So as you can see in these pictures, the rats really enjoy sleeping inside of these. You can use zip ties, or you can use other things like mini bungee cords or safety pins or whatever you have to hang them up in the cage. And then if you just add some fabric or some bedding, the rats are really going to enjoy sleeping inside. So I don't have any videos of my girls sleeping inside an exercise ball, but the closest commercial toy I can compare an exercise ball to is a Sputnik or a Space Pod, which is basically just this little ball-shaped hammock that's made out of hard plastic that you can hang up in your rat's cage. And anyone who's had one of these will know that rats absolutely adore them. And because of this, I would really encourage anyone who has an exercise ball to hang it up, because rats seem to adore them just as much as they love Space Pods. So thank you everyone for watching, and I hope this video was helpful to anyone out there wondering if exercise balls are good for their rats. For more rat care and rat trick training tips, feel free to visit my website at www.rattricks.weebly.com, link in the description. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!